Hello and welcome to another podcast episode of Belongs to the Shadows. I'm your creepy host, Jaime Bennett. We're going to be going down a rabbit hole today, and as I'm recording this episode, it is storming here, so you may hear some thunder in the background. Ambiance, that's what we're going to consider it. As always, listener viewer discretion is strongly advised. I'm going to be talking about a couple of movies. So here's the situation. I have kind of a crazy theory. And I came up with this theory as I was watching a movie that I hadn't seen in a very, very long time. I watched it when I was a small child, and again, probably in my adult years, but it had been a while. The movie is called Return to Oz, not sponsored by that anyways. But Return to Oz, that traumatized me when I was a kid. Let me tell you, if you've never seen Return to Oz, you might want to turn this episode off because I don't want to ruin it for you. And if you have seen it, then you'll know what I'm talking about. The witch changes heads, and then you have the Wheelers in it. Like, there's so many creepy factors to that movie. It's crazy. And furthermore, the fact that they send Dorothy to have electroshock therapy for having an imagination. That's the general gist that I received from that movie. Have an imagination and you will receive electroshock therapy. And if you don't know, the reason why I say I'm going down a rabbit hole and I'm going to give you my theory, and it's kind of not really a funny theory, but kind of a creepy funny theory. Once you hear my theory, you're not going to be able to unhear my theory. So, the actress who plays Dorothy in The Return of Oz is the same actress who played Nancy in The Craft for Zabak. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. That's how I've always pronounced it. So yeah, there's that. And here's the crazy thing. Here's my theory. So Dorothy got electroshock therapy for having an imagination and talking about another land and her friends in another land. And so her aunt, who I deem as completely wicked and evil for not allowing Dorothy to have an imagination, sends her, takes her on a carriage ride, and her dog Toto is trying to follow them. And she tells Toto to go home, Toto, go home. And they have to drive. They have to, take a carriage, their personal carriage, to a few towns over. They have to travel to get there. Also, Dorothy can receive electroshock therapy. How insane is that? And while she is there, she sees one of the people from the land of Oz. So, and then when she comes home from electroshock therapy, she sees that person again, and that person tells her to be quiet. Let's not talk about that other place. So, yeah. Here's a theory. It's my theory. That Dorothy grows up to become Nancy, and it's no wonder Nancy goes insane because she used to be Dorothy. She used to be known as Dorothy, and now she's going by the name Nancy, and she thinks that she has magical powers and can fly. And she ends up in an insane asylum, mental health facility, if you will, in the Craft. And she's strapped in. She's in a straitjacket or strapped down to the bed in the craft, and she's yelling, I can fly, I can fly, I'm your daughter now. And so it's my theory, that Dorothy in Return to Oz, and Nancy in the craft are all one and the same. Hmm. Gets your wheels to turning, and it gets you to thinking, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah. I was just telling my husband, I was like, it's no wonder that The Return of Oz traumatized me when I was a kid. There's so many like freaky, absurd, creepy things in that movie. And if you haven't seen it in a while, you should go back. You should go back and watch it, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen The Craft, you should go and watch The Craft if you like those sorts of movies, which I do. I wouldn't have a show called Belongs to the Shadows, and I wouldn't be talking about it on my show if I didn't like it. So, yeah, it's my theory that Nancy used to be Dorothy, and because she received electroshock therapy, she grew up to become Nancy, and she started calling herself Nancy once she got out of Kansas. She ended up in California or wherever they are at in the craft. I'm pretty sure it's California. And started calling herself Nancy, and still thought that she had supernatural powers and was still using her imagination. So she got sent to the insane asylum or the mental health facility in the craft. Yep. There's I think there was some more theory to that. My husband added to it, but I can't remember what he said. But I went down in a rabbit hole. I was like, it's no wonder that Dorothy ended up becoming Nancy when she grew up, because she received electroshock therapy when she was younger. And there's that. So it brings me to what the show is really about today. I wanted to dive into the old psychology practices and why old insane asylums are haunted. Because there was a lot of crazy, torturous type practices in psychology that they obviously don't practice any longer, because it was insane in itself to practice these like electroshock therapy and lobotomy and all the different practices that I'm going to be talking about. As always, if I didn't say it before, because I got to rambling, listener and viewer discretion is strongly advised. Today's show is not sponsored by any of the movies that I'm going to be talking about. Not sponsored at all. But if you would like to sponsor my show, I would greatly appreciate it, because that would be awesome. And, I enjoy doing these shows, and I hope you enjoy listening to them, because I really enjoy doing them. So yeah, we're going to be diving down the rabbit hole of old psychology practices. And of course, I get a lot of my information from the good old Google. Not sponsored by Google, by the way, but hey, Google, if you want to sponsor me, go ahead. That would be awesome. Please like and subscribe to my channel. It really, really helps me out, and it will help encourage me to keep doing these episodes. But who am I kidding? It does not matter if I have one listener. I really enjoy doing these episodes, and I really enjoy doing the research as I'm telling you about the topic at hand. So here we go. Disclaimer, I will probably mispronounce things. My darn dialect gets in the way a lot. And I should probably be wearing my reading glasses, so I'm aging myself here. But here we go. And I will put the links down in the description for any of you who would like to read it for yourself, as always. And I like to give credit where credit is due. So here we go. This comes from Google, and it's old psychology practices do encompass a large range of historical approaches to mental illness. Man, I can't even talk. I have allergies going. I mowed the yard yesterday, and in Georgia, oh, you need to wear like a hazmat suit when you mow your yard. Because you're going to get allergies. And so my throat's a little sore. So you may get some ASMR from me drinking water every now and again, which I'm going to be taking a sip right now. Yum, yum, water. Hydrate, 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 especially in this weather. So old psychology practices do encompass a large range of historical approaches to mental illness, some of which are now considered unethical, like I was saying earlier, or ineffective. These practices often stem from a lack of scientific understanding and varied widely across cultures and time periods. Some examples include the following. Early practices did include exorcism. Yep. Let me repeat that. Did include exorcism. In many ancient cultures, mental illness was attributed to demonic possession. I'm going to let you digest that for a second. Demonic possession. And exorcism was a common treatment involving rituals, prayers, and sometimes physical violence. So I talked about that movie, The Exorcist, a long time ago because for those of you who are new here in the world of Belongs to the Shadows, I grew up near St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri. And a lot of The Exorcist, what that was based upon, took place in St. Louis, Missouri. I will link one of my favorite YouTube hosts and their show. I'll try to find that episode where they talk about The Exorcist because they do a really good job with explaining it. And I love this show anyways. It's called The Grim Life Collective. And I absolutely adore their show. So shout out to that show because I have been a fan for a very long time. And it would be awesome to meet them one of these days. But I will link it below because they do a really good job. And they have many other episodes where like they go to Bonaventure Cemetery, they go to horror conventions, they do different things on that show. So it's not just like one subject. They do many different things on there, and it's very interesting how they approach it, and they do a really good job with showing you things and with explaining the backstory and the history of whatever topic that they're talking about. So, trepanation. This involved drilling holes in the skull, possibly to release evil spirits or relieve pressure with evidence dating back to prehistoric times. That's scary. This one you all have probably heard of. Bloodletting and purging. So these practices, common in ancient and medieval medicine, were based on the theory of balancing bodily fluids and were sometimes applied to individuals with mental health issues. So practices in asylums are as follows. Restraints and isolations. Asylums often use physical restraints, solitary confinement, as well as other forms of isolation to manage patients, often without regard for their well-being. Herrick therapies. These included insulin coma therapy, inducing comas with insulin, chemical shock therapy, psychosurgery like lobotomy, and electroconclusive shock therapy, ECT, often with serious side effects and limited benefits. Think about that for a second. The brain is very, very, very sensitive, and you're manipulating the brain. So things are going to go wrong. Things are going to get damaged, and the person could possibly even have died from these practices. Hydrotherapy. This involved using water-based treatments like prolonged baths, showers, and wet packs to calm or sedate patients. Other practices involved here we go, phrenology. Phrenology? I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. This pseudoscience, popular in the 19th century, involved examining the shape of the skull to determine the personality traits and mental abilities. Diet, 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 Dietec dietetics. There you go. That's a mouthful. Specific diets were prescribed based on theories about the influence of food on mental health. Incantations and amulets were also used. These were used in some cultures to ward off evil spirits and protect against mental illnesses. I should say, protect against potential mental illnesses. Starvation, agitation, and torture. Some historical accounts describe methods of frightening or physically harming individuals to try to restore their rationality. Wouldn't that make them more irrational? Because, like, you're scaring them half to death, and then, yeah, there's that. Behaviorism, rise and fall. Behaviorism, which focused on observable behaviors, was a dominant force in psychology in the mid 20th century, but its limitations led to the emergence of other perspectives. Cognitive and humanistic therapies. These approaches developed in the mid 20th century, focused on thoughts and feelings, cognitive, and personal growth, and potential humanistic. Medications role. The development of psychotropic medications, especially in the mid 20th century, revolutionized the treatment of mental illness, offering new possibilities for managing symptoms. So here's some important considerations. Many older practices were based on superstition, limited understanding of the brain, and lack of ethical considerations for patients' welfare. The history of mental illness treatment reflects a gradual shift towards more humane and scientifically informed approaches. While some practices have been abandoned, others, like electroshock therapy or ECT, have been refined and continue to be used in specific cases. Wow. Wow. That's a lot to digest. Think about it. Like, it's a lot to digest. So here's electroconclusive therapy, ECT. Electroconvulsive therapy. Pardon me. I swear I need to need to wear my reading glasses. Um, Also known as electroshock therapy, basically the same thing. It is a medical treatment primarily used for severe mental illness conditions, especially severe depression, that haven't responded to other treatments. It involves using controlled electrical currents to induce a brief seizure, which is believed to alter brain chemistry and alleviate symptoms. ECT is administered under general anesthesia and muscle relaxants, making the procedure painless and minimizing physical side effects, while historically controversial modern ECT is a safe and effective treatment option when performed by trained professionals. So, brief electrical stimulations, a controlled electrical current, is delivered through electrodes placed on the scalp. Seizure induction, the stimulation causes a brief seizure in the brain, lasting about 30 seconds. Brain chemistry changes, the seizure is believed to trigger changes in brain chemistry and neuroplasticity, potentially leading to symptom improvement. So, here are the conditions that ECT treats. Severe depression. ECT is highly effective for severe depression, especially when medication and therapy haven't been successful. So, the reason why Dorothy got electroshock therapy is basically she had an imagination, but her imagination was running wild and she wasn't sleeping. So Dorothy's aunt decided to take her to get electroshock therapy. It also was used to treat bipolar disorder. It can be used to treat manic episodes of severe depression, episodes in bipolar disorder, and also catatonia. ECT is effective in treating catatonia, a state of unresponsiveness and immobility. Schizophrenia. In some cases, ECT is used to treat certain forms of schizophrenia, particularly those with severe symptoms or treatment resistance. So, the procedure and safety of the procedure is they use general anesthesia. So it is performed under general anesthesia, which makes it pain-free during the procedure. Muscle relaxants, monitoring, recovery, short-term memory loss could occur. Temporary memory loss or difficulty with concentration can occur, but these side effects are usually short-lived. So, what's the effectiveness and safety of this? ECT is considered a safe and effective treatment for various mental health conditions, particularly those resistant to other treatments. Studies show that ECT can lead to significant symptom improvement in a high percentage of patients, especially those with severe depression. While ECT has improved significantly over the years, it is crucial to understand the potential risks and benefits and discuss them with a qualified psychiatrist. I can't even talk. In conclusion, ECT is a valuable treatment option for severe mental illnesses when other treatments are not effective. It's a safe and controlled procedure, and modern techniques have minimized potential side effects, making it a viable option for many patients. So that's why I say Dorothy's aunt was extremely evil. Evil. Because Dorothy just had an imagination. And yes, she wasn't sleeping very well, but did the aunt try chamomile tea? Did the aunt try chamomile tea with honey? Did she try anything else to help Dorothy sleep? Or did she just think of Dorothy as a burden and say, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to get her electroshock therapy so that I don't have to deal with this? Problem solved. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, for the second half of Belongs to the Shadows, I'm laughing at myself because I was talking and I was talking and I was talking, and then I looked down and I hadn't hit the record button, which y'all don't need to know that because you would have never have known if I didn't open my big mouth. But hey, we're transparent here. We are transparent here, and I admit my mistakes. I even tell you all, I give you a warning that I can't pronounce things, and yeah, so there you go. There you go. There's a blooper for you all. Anyways, because we are talking about insane asylums and the old practices. A lot of these places are extremely haunted. So I only feel that it's necessary to talk about some of the haunted insane asylums locations. Many former insane asylums are considered haunted due to their dark history and the suffering that took place within their walls. Like I said, these institutions, often overcrowded and underfunded, were known for their harsh conditions and controversial treatments like lobotomies and electroshock therapy. Poor Dorothy. Poor Dorothy. Places like Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Rolling Hills Asylum, and the former Georgia Lunatic Idiot and Epileptic Asylum are often just a few examples of locations where paranormal activity is frequently reported. And because I live in Georgia, I'm going to be talking about Georgia Lunatic Idiot and Epileptic Asylum, located in Milledgeville, Georgia. I'm probably mispronouncing that. It is a massive institution, once the largest of its kind, was notorious for its poor conditions and treatments of patients. So here we go. And yes, I hit record this time, so we're doing good. We're doing good. um, this article comes from New Georgia Encyclopedia, and the article's author's name is David H. Payne, University of Georgia. We got to give credit where credit is due. And because I am a huge fan of this YouTube show, these YouTube hosts, they do an amazing job. I'm pretty sure that they did explore this location and have an episode on their show of this location. So big shout out to Sam and Colby. I've been a fan of theirs for a long time, and they do a really good job. Like every single episode, they do a really, really good job. They dive deep in there and they explore and they give you the real. And I'm pretty sure that they did explore this location. So if I can find that particular episode, I will link it below. I really do like Sam and Colby. They are awesome at what they do, and they explore haunted locations a lot. And around Halloween, they have what they call Hell Week, and they explore a lot of haunted locations. And sometimes they work with another one of my favorite YouTubers, Selena Spooky Boo. So yeah, you should really check out Selena Spooky Boo and Sam and Colby. Big shout out to them. Not sponsored by them, by the way. It would be nice if I could meet them one of these days, but there you have it. So, the Central State Hospital was founded amid the social reform movements of the 19th century and expanded to one of the nation's largest mental health institutions in the 20th century. Central State Hospital on Milledgeville, has been at the center of debates for over the role of government in public health, unethical treatment, overpopulation, diseases. Yeah. The hospital's turbulent history, spanning 3 centuries, has included major changes in how mental illness and people with mental illnesses are viewed by society and treated by medicine. So, the early planning, movements to reform prisons, create public schools, and establish state run hospitals for the mentally ill swept across the nation during the first decades of the 19th century. In 1837, Georgia politicians responded by passing a bill calling for the creation of a state lunatic, idiot, and epileptic asylum located in Milledgeville, then the state capital. Construction of the facility was completed in the year of October 1842, and the hospital admitted its first patient later that year. Initially, politicians expected the asylum would become self-sustaining, with healthier patients paying for their upkeep. They also hoped recovered patients could quickly return to society. Care of patients was based on the institution as a family model, which asserted that hospitals were best organized when they resembled extended families. This model was applied at Milledgeville under the leadership of Dr. Thomas A. Green, who served at the hospital from the years 1845 to 1879. Green ate with staff and patients daily and abolished such physical restraints as chains and ropes. Despite these improvements, though, treatment for patients often varied according to social class, with wealthier patients receiving more attention and treatment than impoverished charges. One wealthy patient stayed in the Green's personal residence instead of the asylum ward itself, and married into the superintendent's family. There's a red flag. The hospital became increasingly custodial as the population evolved from the acutely disturbed to the chronically ill and organically disabled, many of whom were veterans of the Civil War years 1861 through 65. With little chance of successfully returning to their families, freed African Americans also entered the institution for the first time in the year 1866, which previously had serviced white patients only. So in 1872, the Georgia Lunatic Asylum possessed a ratio of 112 patients per physician. Let me read that again. 112 patients per physician. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's like having that many students per one teacher. And a lot of times that happens at the university level. So think about that. 112 patients. And a lot of these patients are critically ill per one doctor. One doctor to take care of 112 patients. That's insane. A number that would not improve for almost a century. The asylum underwent a dramatic increase in patient population when local communities began sending unwanted or problematic residents to the asylum. Dorothy's aunt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but oh, I digress. We won't dive into that again. But I think you understand my point. Problematic. Regardless of their diagnosis, this included many freed people who were deemed unfit for independent living according to the principles of scientific racism. The asylum's population further accelerated in 1877 when it ended any expectation that patients or their families pay for their upkeep at the institution. Rapid expansion. So the asylum did adjust to the increase by developing more specific methods of diagnosis and implementing differentiated ward placements under Superintendent Dr. Thelopius O. Powell, a noted scholar of psychiatry. who served from the years 1879 to 1907. Powell segregated Black patients into their own building, one of several additional brick buildings and numerous auxiliary facilities constructed to handle the increase of patients. New construction often failed to keep up with overcrowded wards. However, the problem got worse when the building for the African Americans burned in 1897. Powell resorted to housing Black patients in underground tunnels until the building could be rebuilt. That same year, the legislature passed a law renaming the Georgia Lunatic Asylum to the Georgia State Sanitarium, effective September 1st of 1898. Crowded conditions led to the spread of diseases like tuberculosis, which prompted a legislative inquiry into management at the sanitarium in 1909. Nevertheless, counties continued to send unwanted residents to the sanitarium. Dorothy's aunt. Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. And the increase in numbers meant a concurrent decrease in the quality of care. So, feeding the sanatorium's population, which get this, numbered 3,206. Yeah, 206. 3,206 patients at the start of 1910 became extremely expensive, so officials sought to become self-sufficient. Part of the extension hospital grounds had been reserved for the planting of crops, and administrators had patients undertake the strenuous work of farming these acres. The work entailed little treatment on the part of the staff, but often proved beneficial to those patients who would return to farm life when discharged. The overwhelming number of patients also led to a pattern of conscious neglect, whereby hospital staff met the basic daily needs of their charges, but were unable to provide appropriate treatment to their illness. So in 1929, the state legislature changed the name of the sanitarium to Milledgeville State Hospital, reflecting a focus on rehabilitating its 5,000 plus patients. But significant interventions like insulin shock and electroconvulsive therapy became common to manage the exploding patient load. Federal funds assisted in the construction of needed additional buildings by 1940, but the dislocations of the Great Depression swelled the hospital's patient count past 9,000. Wow. So, yeah, it goes on to tell you about the closure of the state hospital and the political challenges and you know, all of that. I will let you all read further on if you want to continue to research this. But yeah, wow. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that there was somebody that had talked about it before. I'm going to look it up. You may hear some typing. But I think that electroshock therapy for so let me see. Okay. There was I think another YouTuber that had talked about electroshock therapy with females, and if I'm mistaken, it had something to do with um this particular female received electroshock therapy because of her want of becoming a mother, but I could be remembering that completely wrong. Um, I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to like dive down the rabbit hole a little bit more, and if I ever do find that, then I will link it below and you all can read about it. But I specifically remembering like this crazy story where a female had received electroshock therapy because she was depressed about not being able to serve her wife duties and become a mom. But I could be completely wrong and I could be remembering that incorrectly. I really wish that I would have looked it up before I did this podcast, but that's okay. I'll link it below. No big deal. It can always be linked below. But I hope you all have enjoyed this podcast. I have enjoyed talking about it and taking you down my rabbit hole theory of Dorothy becoming Nancy in the craft. I was watching Return of Oz and it was one of those late night thoughts when you can't sleep and your mind goes wild and you think those silly questions of what if, I wonder. A lot of books come out of that. A lot of books come out of that because that's what authors do, and a lot of my poetry comes out of that. I'll be laying in bed and it'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, ooh, that'd make a really good poem. So if you have any suggestions of what you want me to research and talk about next, put it in the comments below. I do actually check my comments, so put it in the comments below. Or if you think that there's any way that I can improve these podcasts, I'm always open to suggestions. Um, I have been doing radio and voiceovers and podcasting and all that for quite a while. I do have a degree in mass communications, emphasis in recording technologies. I really, really want to go back to being an on-air radio personality. It's really hard for me to find a job in that particular field because a lot of times any open slots for radio stations go to the college students that are studying that. And let me tell you why, because they don't have their degree yet, so they can get them as free interns, and it counts as a credit toward their degree because I did that once. I worked at TAO in Marion, Illinois, as an intern. Shout out to TAO. Don't know if they still exist. It's been a long time since I have listened to that radio station. But yes, I did intern for them for a while, and because it was more than just TAO, it was more than just the rock station. It was also like the Bear, which was country music. I believe the Bear was country music, and then there was classic rock under the same roof. It was under a particular broadcasting group. So yeah, it was interesting getting to be an intern there. But unfortunately, when I was running an errand, I got in a real bad car accident and totaled my car. So I had to quit because I had no way of traveling to my internship and I wasn't getting paid anyways. So the person at the radio station who was my boss at the time just gave me a full credit for the class, and I appreciate that. I really do. Um, So, anyways, I hope y'all are having a good day. And until next time, stay creepy.